House Armed Services Committee, Adam Smith. Congressman, glad to have you here. All right, now I understand the phrasing of give it the old college try for things not as serious as war and diplomacy, but Vice President Vance is essentially saying, what do we lose with trying? I don't think that's the right question here. That's really about the beginning of negotiations and the war, perhaps, with the idea of mitigating the loss after you have tried seems an odd framing. Are you comfortable with the administration's framing to the American public that this is just, let's try it?
Well, I'm not comfortable with that. The President Trump has been saying things that are just clearly not true about, well, it really is unconditional surrender. It's none of those things. So the fact that the president is sort of disconnected from reality on this is troubling as you enter into those negotiations. There's no surrender here. Basically, what Iran has said is they will open the strait in exchange for certain compensation. And that the details of that are being negotiated out in the next 60 days. And there's nothing even in the agreement that says that those parts of it go away if they don't resolve the nuclear issue. That's not made clear in the MOU. The MOU is pretty straightforward. It's debating how much to pay Iran to open up the strait. And we must all remember that the strait was open before the war began. So this war very clearly didn't accomplish our goals. It put Iran in a stronger position because they learned they could leverage control of the strait to gain a considerable amount of power at a very low cost.
You know, this is the memorandum of understanding. I'm glad you remind the audience of that. We know there is a 60-day window for negotiations that are going to unfold and maybe iron out or present additional details that might mean this is better than people think, maybe. But what is your red line here? I mean, is there a specific concession of this agreement that you believe should not be on the table? No way, no how.
Well, there's a couple things about this. I don't have a particular red line. Actually, Michelle Goldberg had a really good column about this. When Trump started this war, and it didn't work in the first 3 or 4 weeks, it was baked in that this was going to be a failure for the U.S. How big a failure? That depends on the negotiations. I'm in favor of stopping the war because I don't see how we're going to get to a better position by continuing the war. And the costs are enormous, certainly for the global economy, but lives lost, the disruptions across the Middle East, and towards what end? How is bombing Iran for another week or 2 or 3 going to fundamentally change anything? It's not. So I think this is the best of a series of bad options that were created by Trump's stupid decision to start a war that was inevitably going to lead us to right where we're at. Now, I think we should try to minimize how much relief we give to Iran. I'm troubled by the fact that the MOU talks about getting rid of all sanctions and a $300 billion payment to Iran. On top of that, seems to me we could limit the compensation in exchange for opening up the Strait of Hormuz. But we just don't have, well, to use one of Trump's favorite phrases, we just don't have the cards here. And because of the decisions that Trump made that put us into this corner.
You do have congressional power, and you've got the card of being able to be a check on authority. But you heard the president say he does not believe that there are any limits to his power. The Supreme Court's wrestling with a decision right now that we look to have maybe next week on the limits of executive power. But Vance is quite confident that the administration can temporarily lift sanctions without Congress. How would Congress respond if they do act alone?
Yeah, well, they shouldn't. The law says that we have to lift those sanctions. There are some exceptions, and I'd have to get into specific sanctions where the president has the authority to waive them. But very clearly, the president doesn't understand where we are at in this negotiation when he says he has. If he had unlimited power, one would think that Iran's nuclear program would be gone by now. That their support for terrorism would be gone by now. And again, I'm going to come back to something I said earlier. The fact that our president is so completely disconnected from reality that he can say there are no limits on his power, even as Iran is vividly showing him the limits on those on his power, that means he doesn't know how to handle the real world in terms of the power he has and the power he doesn't, and how to leverage what he can instead of fantasizing about things that he clearly cannot do. And that's going to make this negotiation even tougher over the course of the next 60 days.
Congressman Adam Smith, thank you.
Thanks, Laura.
I want to bring